Hello guys and welcome to the ToniSport Newsfeed. My name is Patrick and I'm back with another video for you. Today I want to talk a little bit about the installing of a steering servo, because there are some things you have to keep in mind when installing a steering servo in an RC racing car. And there are also some things you can do wrong. And I will show you the complete installation process of a servo with the adjusting of the steering at the end as well, so that you always can be sure to have a car which steers perfectly from left to right, because this is super important for us on the racetrack. We want to have a car which feels the same when we go to the left and to the right. So today we're talking about servo installation and the setup, and I would say let's get it started right now. Okay, let's start with the servo installation. First of all, I want to point out that these advices and tips, they are the same for almost every low-profile servo on the market, so it doesn't matter which servo you want to install in your touring car. Just take care and make it as precise as possible. First of all, I want to show you that I dremeled away this section here on the servo, the fourth mounting hole, because in this area the belt of my touring car is passing the servo, and in a lot of touring cars it's the same nowadays. You have to cut that left lower mounting hole. It doesn't matter if it's a plastic or an aluminum case on your servo. If you have to cut it, just make sure that you cut it properly and that you allow your belt to have enough space to pass your servo here without scratching and rubbing on the servo or on the servo mount as well. Okay, the next step, it is important now to mount the servo in a proper way here to your servo mount. These servo mounts, they are pretty almost equal to this one here, and we now have the option to use 3 holes for the mounting. And standard wise you can use a normal button head screw and a washer to mount your servo, and if you do it like this, you can mount it properly. But I hope you can see it now. When you only use a screw and a washer, it might happen that during a crash your servo still can shift, because the servo mounting holes, they are they have a bigger diameter than the screw shaft. So this is something which happens from time to time, and it might be possible that your car will not drive perfectly straight anymore after you hit a barrier. So if you want to prevent yourself and your car from this, you can use better servo mounting screws. They are available from different manufacturers on the market. For example, I can show you these one-piece servo mounting screws here from One Up Racing, made from aluminum. But screws like that, they are available from other manufacturers as well. The benefit is that you have all-in-one solution. You have the screw, the washer, and this piece of aluminum, which will fit exactly into your servo like this, without allowing the servo to move after you have mounted it on your servo mount in the car. So this is what I recommend to use. Spend some extra bucks for some good servo mounting screws, because after you have mounted your servo to your servo mount, you can be 100% sure that your servo is absolutely straight and mounted in a symmetrical way onto your servo mount. You can see it like this. You have to take care that the gap between the servo and the servo mounting plate, left and right, is the same, so that you can be sure that your servo is straight in the car and not maybe in the wrong mounting position, because that will give you not the best steering feel and your car will not drive straight and all these things. Okay, now the servo is mounted onto the servo mounting plate, and we can try to install it now into the car. Okay guys, the servo is mounted into the car in a correct position, because we used these high quality servo mounting screws. And now it's time to get your servo horn mounted here onto the servo. Always make sure that you use the correct lengths of the steering link and this steering connection link according to the manual of your manufacturer when you build a car for the first time, or especially when you want to rebuild it and set everything to zero. It is super important that left and right steering linkage are in the same length. This can maybe have a difference of 0.1, 0.2 or 0.3 millimeters. This is not super critical, but a bigger difference in the steering link left and right will make your car not feel the same in left or right turn corners. Okay, now you have to make sure that your steering servo is in the zero neutral position trimming wise, and because of that you have to switch on the car once, and then you have to use your transmitter and you have to set the steering trimming to the zero position, which I will do now to demonstrate that for you. Now we are in the zero position, which means that your servo here is absolutely centered. Okay, now we are getting closer to the final steps of the steering adjustment, where we will need the setup system and the plexiglass plate to adjust our steering angle and the toe out. But before we do that, I want to give you one more information concerning the servo arm and the steering link. As I told you before, I recommended that you build these parts, the steering link and these linkage, according to the manual, because then you will have a straight steering setup. The reason for that is that almost all the manufacturers, they constructed their cars in a way to achieve a 90 degrees angle between the servo horn and the steering link. So for better understanding, I made this small drawing here. It is good to have a 90 degrees angle between the servo horn and the steering link, because when we have this, the steering will feel the same left to right, because we start the steering mechanically from a zero position, where not one side is more angled than the other side when you steer left or right. So I hope it's easy to understand, and this is why all the manufacturers have some different measurements here in the linkage lengths, but in the end the result should be the same for all of these to get these magical 90 degrees angle between servo horn and steering link. If you cannot achieve that in a perfect way, maybe if you only land at 89 or 91 degrees, you will not feel that. But when there is a huge difference in the angle, you will have a car which drives left and right completely different, and this is what we don't like to have on the track, because for fast lap times, and you know that guys, you have to create a car which is absolutely amazing to drive and which is always feeling good in the corners, and not left side good and right side bad. So that's the reason why. Okay, when you install your servo horn then onto the servo with your trimming in the zero position, it sometimes can happen, according to the different servos on the market, on the different gears and internals. Not every servo has exactly the same zero position, and sometimes when you then install the servo horn, your steering in total will not be straight and maybe a little bit to the one or to the other side. In this case, when you are sure that your links are equal and that everything else is good, you can use the sub-trim function of your radio to adjust a new zero trim point, I would say. And with this sub-trim you can do that easily, and then you have a new defined neutral position of your servo, and then you can start adjusting everything perfectly left and right. Okay, now we are ready to adjust the final things on the car, and in these steps it is important now to set the correct toe out first. So you need your measurement plate here for your setup system, and then you have to switch on the car. I will not do it now to prevent the loud cooling fan from running. With your car switched on, which means that your servo will hold the neutral position. You can adjust the left and the right side of your toe. And generally it is important to say that on a touring car or on almost every RC racing car, we never run a toe in the front, because this will make the car almost impossible to drive straight. And also a toe of 0 is normally not in use. We mostly use a toe out, which means that the wheels are a little bit pointing outwards in the direction of driving. And normally we usually use 1 degree toe out per side, maybe 1.5 or 2 degrees per side when you are racing on a super high bite track and you want to smoothen out your car a little bit and take away the aggressiveness. So that's important to know, I think. Once you have adjusted your toe out left and right to the same value with this little tool, once again check the measurements, the lengths of your steering links left and right, that they are almost the same or very close to each other. And with today's cars are all produced and machined in such a precise way, you normally cannot get big differences in these steering linkage lengths, because when you find out that you have to use completely different measurements, then something else must be wrong. Maybe you made a mistake with the building or something, because normally the tolerances, they are super small nowadays, and you can almost go with the same steering length and achieve the correct toe out then as well. Okay, when the toe out is set, in the next step you have the option to use the plate again to adjust your steering travel left and right, where you can adjust the overall angle from, I would say 0 up to 40 degrees, which we will never use because we are not drifting. For touring cars, you can try to always use as less steering travel as possible, but on the other side, please use as much as you need to hit the perfect lines on the track. But if you are able to run fast lap times with not a lot of steering travel, with maybe only 22 or 23 degrees of travel, your car will carry much more corner speed through the corners, because as more you steer, as more the car will brake mechanically and lose its corner speed. So normally outdoors we use a little bit more of steering travel to get that effect, that the car gets dragged into the corner and has a little bit more steering. But on the other side, when we are racing on high bite indoor carpet tracks, we always try to only use as much steering travel as we need to hit our lines perfectly, because then we can carry the most possible corner speed. When you then want to adjust your left and right travel, use your transmitter, and there you have the option. In the first moment I would always set the dual rate to 100, which means that your steering left and right will be 100%, and afterwards you can go into the setup which has the name EPA. That's the endpoint adjustment, where you can adjust the travel of your steering to the left and to the right independently from each other. So you can adjust, as you see in this way, 88% to the left and 90% to the right. And with these values, in this example, I achieved a maximum steering of 27 degrees. And from then on, when you have adjusted your travel left and right to the same endpoints of 26 on the plate, then you can go back in the menu, and then you go a little bit down here with the dual rate to maybe 95% or 94, and then you can check that your steering travel will go down as well. And when you only want to run for example 23 degrees on a high bite track, then you go low with the dual rate as until you reach 23 degrees. And when you're on the driver's stand and you're driving and you think, hey, I need a little bit more steering, that was too less, then you can go upwards again on the dual rate, and then you have more steering available. It is important to know that, and it is also very helpful to to know how you set it when you are driving or when you're practicing, because sometimes 2% more or less steering will have a big impact on your track, on your car on the racetrack, and can make the difference from a car which is different to drive or difficult to drive to a car which is better or more easy to drive or even faster, because you can cut the corners a little bit more tight. I hope that this was helpful for you. And generally, when you adjust your steering setup, take your time when you are installing the servo. Make sure that it's mounted properly and straight. Take your time when you're installing your servo horn. Use the sub trim if necessary to find the perfect neutral position on your servo to install the servo horn. Check that your steering linkages are in the same length. And then when you install your setup system, check that your steering arms will never try to bend your C-hubs when you are full lock at steering, because then you have a too big steering angle. And then use your eye measurements and use the setup system to adjust your overall steering travel. I would recommend for indoor 22 to 26 degrees, not more. And for outdoor tracks, 25 up to 30 sometimes. The value is a little bit bigger when you're racing outdoors, as I explained before. That's it, and I hope that these tips are a little bit helpful for you when you are setting up your steering the next time. Okay guys, that was the video about the installing of a new steering servo, or a servo in general. Whenever you do it, take your time, be concentrated, don't make any kind of stupid mistakes, because when your steering setup is completely wrong, your car will be very hard to drive out there on the track, and that will not be a factor to make you quicker during the race. That's it for today. I hope you liked the video. Until the next time, always keep in mind, race with ToniSport. You will never race alone. And we see us in the next video. Goodbye.